Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today on the bench is a Sony Betamax VCR, the SL-F30. Yes, they're 30 on this one. This particular machine I purchased from eBay didn't work. It's got the classic issue of the Hall effect sensor on the video drum stopping it from rotating, and it stops all functions. I've done a couple of these before. I've done one on a C40 and also a Sony SL-F30UB. What I'm going to do is actually do a little how-to guide on how to do this, a step-by-step tutorial. I don't often do this, I just do this stuff for my own entertainment and for yours. So I try not to be an educator, I'm just an entertainer and show you what I get up to. But I've had quite a few questions about how to do these, and I thought, okay, let's actually make a little step-by-step guide on how to do it. It's not as difficult as you think, you just have to be careful. It's actually just take it very, very slowly, and these things are actually relatively straightforward to fix. So what we're going to do now is take the machine apart, take the top cover off and the bottom, and we're going to take the video drum out. We're going to disassemble the bottom part of the video drum and then desolder the Hall effect sensor and put the new one in and then put it back together again. Let's get on with it. So step one, dismantle the machine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top cover off, which I've already taken the 4 screws out. Off. Let's put that safely down there. And this is the head drum here. We've got the upper drum and the lower drum, and what we're going to do is basically take this entire whole drum assembly out. We're not going to take the top drum off at all. We're going to leave it entirely in one piece. What we are going to do is we're going to look where the heads are, and we're going to put, there's one there currently and there's one there. We're going to put one head behind this metal part here so it's safe. And so we're going to turn it like that, and then we're going to tape the head drum so it actually stays still. We don't want those heads whizzing around when we're physically pulling out. So the only head that's going to potentially be exposed is the one there. And even then, I'm going to put a piece of paper all around that just to protect it so when I lift out. So that's the first part. I'll go through that as I do it. The next stage is to take the bottom of the machine apart. So we're going to take the cover off. Let's do that. I have already undone some of these, and so we just literally just loosen that off, and we slide the whole case that, and there we go. So this is the head drum assembly. It's held in by 3 screws here, and these screws have springs. So that it's tensioned down. It's not physically bolted onto this, it's actually suspended there. So we've got to take those off. The Hall effect sensor is just in there, and you cannot really easily get to it from for this part. You have to take the whole assembly apart. There are ways of doing it, but I don't like doing it. I like to actually make sure that I don't damage any of other parts of the linear motor. So we've got a big bolt here which we need to undo. And so yeah, so that's really what we're going to do, is basically sort of take this apart. We've got to take these cables out. This is the cables for going into the drum, so we've got to release some of these. That's not too difficult to do, but yeah, okay, right, I'm going to go and grab a cup of tea, one of my weak ass Earl Grey teas, and let's get on with this. Okay, so I have my weak ass Earl Grey tea here. Please don't put any comments in about it on my videos. It's my tea. Cheers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this bolt, this nut off here, and the washer as well. Now to do that, the drum is actually rotating, so if you've got a tool here and you put it on there, you're going to struggle. What you have to do is basically, if I turn it over, put your hand on this and hold this central part of the top of the drum. And so what you do is you lift the machine up on one side, put your hand just so you can feel it, and actually I can now use my fingers to twiddle it, grip it a little tightly, and then undo it like that, and there we go. So there we go. So we have a nut and a washer. Whee! Yeah. Magnetic screwdriver. Right, thank God for that. So that's the next step. After that, we've got to take this magnet off, and this magnet basically goes round above the windings of the stator here. So to get that off, you've got to basically fight the magnetic force of that magnet. So what you have to do is you have to get 2 screwdrivers and just very gently just put them underneath the lip of that disc, no further because there's stators there, and just very gently prise it out. There we go. Making sure that you do even pressure on either side. This thing wants to snap right back down due to magnetic force. So just be very, very careful. And there we go. There, yeah, it's holding the screws. So there we go. That's the magnet. And these are the stators, the windings here. So this is a 3-phase, I think it's a 3-phase. Yes, it's a 3-phase motor here. Ooh. So yeah, and there's also a little washer here that goes down on there as well. I forgot about that. So yeah, so need to put those in and into there. So now that we've actually got in, you can actually see the Hall effect motor and what? Oh, sorry, Hall effect? The Hall effect sensor here, and it's a little black blob there with 4 wires coming out. Let me just zoom in on it. Okay, so this is the Hall effect sensor. This basically detects the rotation of the head drum, and it detects it through the magnetic field generated by the magnet here. And what that does is it actually tells this chip exactly where the drum is. And I think it does it on half, north-south of the actual magnet itself. What happens is, well, what Sony did is they put on here, so when they put this Hall effect sensor into this little area here, they actually put a blob of glue onto that sensor to keep it down, so it doesn't actually shift. The problem is over 40 years, that this glue becomes conductive, and then the power that goes into this Hall effect sensor then conducts across the sensors and blows the Hall effect sensor here. And that can happen at any point. So it's whenever this glue becomes conductive. Sometimes you can clean this glue off and it will then be fine again. Other times it just blows this sensor up. Doing this, you've actually got to take this entire board out to get to the bottom, because it's actually connected to the circuit board underneath. So this is not connected to this stator, it's actually connected to the board underneath. And underneath there are also some capacitors as well. So yeah, this is the main area here which we've got to replace. Okay, now we've got the stator magnet off, we've got to then disconnect all these cables here. Now, this one here is quite easy. You can should just be able to pull it. Let's just help it along. There we go. But these ones here go down into this board on this side, I believe. So what we've got to do is actually, it might, yeah, I think it goes down on that side. So what we've got to do is actually then trace those wires back, and it will go on to the servo board. The thing on this side has snapped. Okay, all right. So I think it goes over on here. There's actually 3 boards. There's this one at the top, which is tuner. Then I think we've got servo, and then on the bottom we've got chroma demodulation. So this is going to be interesting. Okay, not dealing with that part yet. I just want to try and get it all freed up so we can get the cables out. I made a little mistake there. This is not the chip for the head. That's the chip for the capstan motor. So apologies, yes, I got it wrong. It's actually, it sends the pulses to the circuit board underneath it. So this Hall effect sensor here. So that's my mistake. Anyway, yeah. Okay, I'm just going to take that board out of the way while we do this. It does take a little while to find this, the cables. There we go. That's, I don't know whether you can see that, but yeah, there's the cable. And it goes to all the way to here. That's the head drum. That's the signal that comes out of the for the picture. That's the cable. So we have to thread this out and thread it back down because we're taking the whole drum out. There is other ways of doing this. With I know a few other people have actually done this in a different way, but this is my preferred way because I know that I'm not going to really try to damage anything. So you've got to be really careful with these cables because they are actually quite delicate. So don't pull, manipulate. Alright, so I've got the first one out. And again, those cables are very, very fine, so just take it easy. There we've got all of the cables disconnected from the circuit boards. They are very fiddly to get out, but just take it easy. These cables are very thin. Easily break the ends off of the connectors, and I've done that myself. Spent a devil of a job trying to fix. Just taking them easy. So, electrically, the video drum is now disconnected from the machine. So we're now going to go back over to the other side, and we're going to then actually secure the drum and get it ready for pulling out. So the next step is to remove this plastic guide. It's pretty straightforward. 2 screws, and very carefully just maneuver it out. So this keeps the tape down on the little guide at the bottom of the drum, so it's all keeps the alignment of the tape. So that's now gone, so we can easily remove that. The next step is to actually secure the drum and make it safe to remove. Now, this is my techniques. I am not a professional. I've done this many times through experience, and I've snapped a head drum doing this, and I ended up having to get another parts machine to basically fix it. So we need to basically tape down the video heads in a position that actually, there we go, right, the head is there. So one head is there and one head is behind this metal which holds up the upper drum. So put align one there, and we're going to put the other head there. Then what we're going to do is put a piece of paper and wrap it around the actual drum, protecting that head. I'll show you how it works. So we've got this ordinary sellotape and a piece of paper. What we're going to do is we're going to basically take a slice of paper here and then wrap it around the drum. So, yep, we're just going to wrap it around, and then we're going to just make sure that that's down there like that. Okay, and then we're just going to use a bit of sellotape just to try and stick it together. Sometimes it's easier to actually put the tape on first and then push it through. There we go. Put it a little bit tight, and there we go. Okay, this is purely just to keep the drum in place. Now what I'm going to do is use a bit of electrical tape, and I'm just going to keep the drum in one place. Okay, so there's a head there behind the metal, and there's a head just about here which is being protected by this paper. Looks a bit Heath Robinson, but I do not want to snap a head as I'm pulling out, because we're pulling, when we pull it out, it's very easy to damage them, and I don't have another spare head for this, not without dismantling another machine. So there we go. So that basically keeps the drum from moving. That protects the head. So next step is to basically release the video head. So we're going to undo these three screws here, and they've got springs on. Before we do that, I want to make sure that the actual drum doesn't simply just drop down. So I'm just going to put this cloth under like that. Now I would normally do this with the machine vertical so that I could then pull it out, but because I'm showing you what to do, I've actually got it horizontal, which means that the drum can pop out. So if you're going to do this, keep the machine vertical and then do it. I might even just undo two of these and then do the final one vertically but not show you. So here we go. Now can you see, now I've released the tension, that side actually moves the whole drum. So what we've got here is a washer, a pin, and on the pin is a spring. So it's basically like suspension for the video head. So I'm going to put that into there. Little magnet screwdriver, or a screwdriver with some magnetic properties. I'm just going to release this one just so you can see. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to turn the machine vertically and then take the drum out. Okay, so I've got your end on here, I've got the machine vertically. I'm just going to undo that last bolt, hopefully without losing anything. Does happen. Okay. Now that I've actually got that out, and I think I've just lost one of the washers, but I'll find it in a minute. So we can now, as you can see, I've got the paper around. I can now very slowly pull the video drum out. And there we are. And I found the washer. It actually got stuck on the magnet on the back of the capstan. So we finished with the machine itself, and we can start looking at the drum. So you need to put the machine somewhere else safely. We've now got the head drum out. As you can see, I've got the paper around here. This piece of electrical tape is just holding the drum from spinning. This piece of white paper here is actually protecting the video head, which is about there. I have, off camera, just put a little bit of tape against that paper just to stop this paper from shifting. So the next step is to take the actual motor off the drum. So this is the main motor assembly, and you've got two screws here. This is the reluctor ring, which actually picks up the video signals that goes out. This is actually the motor controller on this side. So you've got a little chip there, and then you've got 4 capacitors, which we need to replace, as it's a 3-phase motor. These things here die. They're 50 volts. Was it 50 volts? 1 UF? Yeah, I think I've got those, actually. Yeah, I've got some. They're a little bit big, but, well that's fine. That's all right. The Hall effect sensor there is soldered on to the board just here. Now, it's easier to simply undo these two screws just there and take the whole board out. And you can separate the whole thing if I just... There we go. So we can now take the actual motor controller off, and we can put the drum to one side for safekeeping. So we've now just got this circuit board here and the reluctor ring. So what I'm going to do first is take the Hall effect sensor out, the offending article. This can be fiddly. They're relatively small connections. So yes, it can be difficult when you've got a desolderer which is quite big. So what I may do is actually also desolder the pins which actually attach the board to the coils. Now, one thing that can happen with this is that the bearings go a bit bad on the head drum. If I can just get the this is the magnet that goes on top, and what happens is the motor actually drops and scrapes the coils and then shorts out this enamel coated wire, and that can also cause the motor to go bad. I'm just going to reflow all these connections just so I've got a bit of extra fresh solder on there. We're sucking this solder off anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's bridges any connections. It's just to give it a bit of extra solder to suck up. Let's see whether we can actually pull that out now. So very, very carefully. This can be, it's got to be really, really delicate with it. So we've got the old Hall effect sensor out. Being so gentle, so gentle. I'm not cutting. I'm just prising. I'm trying to work the plastic off of the circuit board. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So we now have that board off, and it was just glue holding that on. When you take this off, whatever you do, do not disturb the pins on the sensor, because you need that as the pattern to put it back in. There we go. So I don't know, it's so hard to see. The pins on this sensor are staggered in a pattern. You need that pattern, so don't just simply bend them back in and then go, oh, I don't know which holes they go in. That will tell you what holes they go in. And the sensor has a little dot on top, and the new sensor also has a dot, so you can know which way round the sensor goes. So we've got the driver board. So this is the driver chip, 2 power transistors there, and then the capacitors. These capacitors need to be replaced. If we've got this out, we have to replace them. So what we're going to do now is desolder these, and the only ones I've got are much bigger, but that's okay because there's room underneath the motor, so that's absolutely fine. One small thing as well is 2 of these capacitors are 1 microfarad at 50 volts, and the other 2 are 0.1 microfarads at 50 volts. So be careful when you're replacing them which ones go where. And I've got plenty of 0.1 microfarad capacitors. So we'll start with the 1 microfarad capacitors, which are the ones which are furthest away from the leads. So there we go. That's 1 and 2. Cool. So there we go. We've actually got the new ones in. Come on. Bit of solder. Yeah, they're in. Not bad. Not great, but not bad. Just going to tidy up that outer one. That's better. So we now have 1 microfarad, 50 volt caps replaced on that side. Then we need to do the 0.1s on this side. There we go. Just bear in mind that these cables are also quite thin here, so just handle them with care. So I'm just going to just gently retouch these back up. Yeah, that's all good. So we now have all the capacitors done. The next stage is the Hall effect sensor. So what I'm going to do is actually put this, where are we going to do it? We're going to basically put it through, put this back on. Now that we've actually done the capacitors, we can put this back on and solder it back on there, and then we can then put the Hall effect sensor through and solder it at that point there. So yeah, there is a certain order to this, because you've got to take this apart to actually get to the capacitors. You could try to loop them through, but yeah, it's easier just to simply unsolder those 3 connections for the stators, the coils, and then put it back on once you've finished, and then put the Hall effect sensor in. So I'm just going to, what I might do is actually also clean up this glue here. That glue might be a little bit conductive. I might also just clean here where the connections are. There we go. And then we'll clean this side here. Okay, just to make sure. And then we'll clean all here. So we can now put the board back on to the motor assembly and put the 3 connections for the coils back in. One of the tracks is lifted very, very slightly, so I need to, and this is all down to these capacitors being a little bit too big, but that's okay, we can deal with that. I'm just going to put the screws in just so it's down tight. Solder that on, and what I want to do is make sure that I've got good connections from all 3 of these, because I've had this apart and these things are difficult to do. So I'm just making sure that the connections are good, because if they're not and I put it back together again, yep, then that one there, yep, and that one there, yep, that's fine. Trust me, I've been here where I didn't get those 3 connections for the coils right, and the motor basically didn't want to spin, and I had to do a whole load of extra work to get back into this, because it goes that way when the machine's upside down and you can't get to the board. So just double check those connections.
I said I love the light of love, hanging on with push and shove. Possession is the motivation, hanging up the whole damn nation. Looks like we always end up in a rut, trying to make it real.
So we're now on to the Hall effect sensor. So let me just grab a new one. These things are quite expensive. They're about £15 each, so please go carefully with them. Right, I've actually got an old one here, which I'm not sure whether it works or not, but I don't really want to put it in and try out. You know, put it in and find out that it's broken after all this effort. So here's a new one that came in today. So there we go. There's the 4 pins on it. I don't know whether you can see them or not, but yeah, there we go. So we've got to make the legs. Where's the other one gone? The legs of the old one splay out. Let me just see whether I can actually zoom in. Right. So we've got the new one on the left and the old one on the right. So I've got to splay out the legs in that configuration. So it's like the left one is up, the second one is down, the third one is up, fourth one is down. Okay, and that will match the holes that where the pins go in. So up, down, up, down. And if you notice, they've got little dots. Come on. There we go. Can you see? They've got little dots on, or little imprints, and that's the way they go. Can be quite fiddly. There we go. So I've got all 4 pins through. Now I just need to bring it back out a little bit and put it in there. But actually I've forgotten to do something. I forgot to clean that whole area. So I need to take that back out. I've forgotten all about that. And let's just clean all of that crud off. Right, that's as far as I'm going to get with cleaning it. Let's just put this thing back in again. There we go. And then we need to bend the whole Hall effect sensor like that. Now, the problem we've got is it just wants to pop back up again. So what I found is pushing it forward, then putting it in, sort of basically bends the actual legs. So you put your finger behind there and you push it, and it actually bends it a little bit more than it should do. And then there we go. That is now in, and the legs are bent to the right angles and in the right holes, and then we can now solder it up. I think the purpose of the glue was to stop this thing from popping out, but they could have just put the glue right on the back of the sensor itself rather than all over the legs and everywhere. It's just a horrible glue. Sort of the same type of thing that happens when they hold down capacitors, and that glue just becomes conductive. That all looks sensible. I'm just going to clean this up just here. I'm just looking to see if that's soldered on correctly, and I think it did. I'm just going to, famous last words, I'm just going to, come on you. I'm just going to put a little bit more solder on this one here. I think we're done, and we can now start putting the head drum back together again. Okay, so we've now done everything here. These caps here will actually comply and actually stay under this tab here. So when I put them down on there, so the capacitors are just touching, and there's plenty of space there for them. So I'm just making sure that they're nipped down and good. So there we go. That's all of the work to the head drum. New Hall effect sensor, new capacitors, and as you can see, this piece of paper here really is protecting the drum from me making mistakes and touching or twisting the heads. And also that piece of tape there is also stopping the drum from twisting as well. So let's put this back into the machine. Okay, machine back on the bench here. What I'm going to do is that. Yeah, okay. I just wondered what that was, but no, that's fine. It's back on the bench. Let's put the drum back in. So if I just thread those through, what I really need to do is do this up on its side. But there we go. Come on. Yeah. There we go. So that's now in, and I can now tighten the bolts down with the springs on the other side. There we go. So I've put the cloth underneath just to push the head up a little bit, and then we need to put the washers on. I've got the right ones. These can be really fiddly, so I tend to, again, there we go, just use a magnetic screwdriver to get them in place. So we've got the washers in place. We can now screw down these bolts with the spring on. Now whatever you do, don't do these up too tight, because you can strip the threads on the actual going into the drum. You'll feel when it gets too tight. Keep going. There we go. That's on. Yep, that's as far as it will go. Yep. Yep. Just gently nip them. Cool. I'm going to do the cabling last. Let's get rid of that cloth holding the head. In fact, I'm just going to double check things. Make sure it's all good. Yep, that's all good. That's fine. So we're now going to put the magnet back on, but we need that washer first to go over there onto there, and then we then put that on. And as you can see, it pulls itself down. Then we put that washer on there, and then we put that bolt on there. Sorry, that button nut, I should say. Keep on doing that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nip it up just so that, there we go. I'm going to come back to that and tighten it up properly. So next I'm going to run these cables back across. Now I'm not going to go exactly back through where they were. What I'm going to do is see whether I can just push them straight through across here, because getting it back through down through there is a complete pain in the backside. So yeah, I'm going to put them across there and down through. Yeah, I can't get this one past that one, so I'm just going to clip those in, route that round there, and then let that go down through. So it's going round and then round this post rather than across. The other ones here seem to go past the post, so that's fine. We'll put that one back in there like that, and I'm just going to pull this larger grey cable through. So I'm going to put this board back now here. The problem we do have is that this clip has broken here. So what I'm going to do is actually leave that like that. I'll come back to that. Connect that back on there like that. I had it slightly out of shot, didn't I? Okay, so this board is back in. Let's turn it back over, have a look. We've got all of these cables are back in, the head's back in, sensor replaced, capacitors replaced. Next stage is to take the paper off the drum and test it. So we are ready to test. So I'm just gonna oh, hang on, I know what we've forgotten to do, is to put the tape guide on the top on. We are nearly ready. Well, we're now ready for a test. Grab a tape. I'm going to plug it in and let's see whether this drum spins. So if I do that, okay, tape in. So when I press fast forward, that drum should spin. Cross fingers. Cross fingers. Crossed everything. Ready? Yes! It's spinning! And it's playing. Okay. Right. Let's get you set up. Let's have a look and see whether this thing, which I've never seen a picture out of it, whether this thing actually has got a picture. Right, here we go. It's tuned in. I've actually put it on the test pattern, so I know that the TV's tuned in. Let's press play. I've never seen a picture out of this machine. This came in with this drum dead, and the tape loading mechanism was damaged. Here we go. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Yes, so the tape is actually bad, I think. I'm just going to check for how far along. Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. This tape is dead. Yeah, I think another machine has actually eaten this alive. So, what I'm going to just double check is the alignment of the drum against the base there. So I'm going to turn it back over, take the screws, release them a little bit, and just pop the drum out while it's still connected. So let's just take that off. Now I don't know whether this machine already had a problem, so just getting a picture is great. It's got probably lots of other problems. Okay, I think this is a case of the operation was a success, but the patient died. The drum's running now, and we're getting a picture out of it. The problem we've got is that we've got this line of, it looks like static, right at the top. I have checked the guides. The tape is in the right positions, and I've even literally deflected the tape itself, as you can see. Still don't get much else on that picture. The tracking is perfect, absolutely perfect. So if I run it there and I run it there, oh, hang on, let's turn that back to there. I think the tracking's fine. I think the guide positions are fine. What I think this is I think it's a head switching problem. It just feels electronic to me, because when I actually adjust and manipulate the tape, yeah, it's still there, and I would expect it to actually shift and change if it was a tape guide issue, especially if I move the tape around while it's running through. So what I may do is try to find a donor machine and actually replace the RP2 board here, which deals with all of the signals coming out of the head. It could be something there. It could be a capacitor. It could be an adjustment. There's 3 adjustments on here, which balances the two the heads as well. And I've actually tried just tweaking them slightly. Still doesn't make a difference. The picture's pretty damn good actually for this machine. I think it's absolutely fine. Just the head switching. So it could be that, it could be, yeah, I think it's going to be the RP20 board. I think it is switching the heads too early. And what it's doing is showing us the gap between one head coming on and the other head going off. Because it's always exactly in one position. So yeah, I think mechanically or from a tape guide perspective, I think that's fine. So I'm going to continue on, but that sort of shows you how to change the Hall effect sensor on a Betamax drum of this vintage. The fact we've got this issue, yeah, I'm not going to fix it in this video. Thanks for watching. I hope this was informative. I don't do informative stuff generally. I just like to entertain and show you what I'm up to. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. It's entirely up to you. Hopefully you like it, and I'll see you on the next video.